I'm Brianna McHenry.
And I'm Stephanie Della Porta, and we are your guides for the When in Bloom podcast.
Join us weekly as we include tips, tricks, and alignment tools that support us on our personal journeys,
bringing you back to the knowing that you have all that you need within you to bloom.
Hello, friends. Happy full moon, and welcome to episode 3, where we talk all about spirit guides. I know I'm really excited. I've cultivated a beautiful and supporting relationship with my guides, and I'm so honored to be able to share my experiences and even a little meditation from all of our guides later on in the episode. We'll begin today with talking about what spirit guides are. For me, your spirit guides are kind of your team that's working with you and working for you behind the scene, in like spirit, in the universe, in other dimensions.
Yeah, for me, for spirit guides, I realized that mine can't be put into a box or a label. So even just trying to define what they are is kind of challenging for me because I've learned, and I do resonate and feel this so deeply, that I'm a very old soul. I'm new in this body, in this physical, earthly body, but my soul is very old. So, with all the other lifetimes I've lived throughout the universe and the multiverses, I have so many different guides that I just consider them, I just call them all my team, my cosmic team. Because when I first began this intuitive work and started really getting into this metaphysical and ethereal world, I got very caught up in labels and where is this guide from? How do I know if this is an ancestor or a light being? What is a light being? Is this angelic? Is this, it got a little confusing. I don't know about for you, but for me, it became really confusing at the beginning, and you're already confused. So
Yeah, at the beginning, I had no idea who I was talking to. And I think because our spirit guides are so heavily labeled, I didn't realize that that's who I was talking to. I was like, where is this voice in my head? And who is it? And what's going on? Um, yeah, it's funny because I didn't start really consciously connecting with my spirit guides until I made an effort to consciously connect with them. And the reason why I was consciously connecting with them is because I was jealous of other people being like, oh, yeah, your guides are like this, and I have guides like this. So that's totally where I found my my connection with them.
I feel all of that. And I will also admit that there was a little bit of envy for me as well with other people. But I realize now that it's so beautiful that we all do connect differently. There really is not one way or one size fits all when it comes to connection, because we each hold such a unique frequency on our own that when our frequency interacts with another frequency or a vibration of a light being or an angel or a spirit, it's going to have a different result than someone else doing the same thing. Because we're beautiful fragments of source and we're meant to be different. So it's so funny you said that and you admitted that, because I totally felt that. And sometimes it still happens though. And that's what I remind myself, that we're all different and it's okay to not experience something the same way. And also, what you said about you didn't know you were even connecting to your guides. I guess because in the media, in movies and television shows, we are taught that in order to make this sort of metaphysical, ethereal connection, it's this big, loud voice that's going to come out of the sky, or you're going to see a spirit standing right in front of you. And that happens for some people, but not for everybody, because it's also where your gifts lie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you come into this lifetime with gifts as well.
That reminds me that I'm constantly working with different guides. I don't have a group of like a few guides that I work with. Right now, I was working with a fairy guide. Sometimes I work with animal guides. Sometimes I even work with different versions of myself, like past life versions of myself or future life versions of myself. Yeah, there
Yes.
really can't be a label.
No, me too. Especially with the different versions of myself, the higher dimensional aspects of myself in different dimensions and different realms and different planets and star systems. That's definitely become really real for me. And it's funny because if you had we'd had this conversation before 2020, I wouldn't I wouldn't have anything to say.
That's so funny that you say that because in 2019, I think, the beginning of 2019, I took an intuitive training course and I was just being lazy. So I didn't want to actually put in the work that needs to be put in order to kind of cultivate this lifestyle. And I remember having such a huge block around connecting with my guides, but it's only because I didn't have someone telling me your guides are everywhere. Your guides are everything and they're all around you.
Yes, I'm learning that they show up in the form that most resonates with you at that time. So for me, I believe that sometimes it's the same or a similar energy or frequency, but it's just showing up as maybe the hawk in the sky or someone in a dream, you know?
That's so accurate though, because right now I've been watching a lot of fairy movies and am been seeing fairies everywhere. So it only makes sense that I am connecting with a fairy guide.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's like you said in one of our previous episodes how we've been conditioned to they've conditioned the magic out of us. And I think when you start to see the magic around you again, this whole other world begins to open up. And it'll show up in, like you said, different ways. I mean, you could be watching a movie and at one point, you're seeing sparkles or flashes out of the corner of your eye, which is also what I see very often. I love that similarly for both of us. Our guides are pretty much from all over the place. And by all over the place, I mean different
Mhm.
planets, different dimensions, different different realms. And we both have different versions of guides.
Let me tell you a story about how I really cultivated this relationship with my guides without even realizing it and experiencing a lot of doubt along the way. One morning I was working and I had an aunt of one of my students come over to me and tell me that she was a medium and that my grandmother was standing next to me and really wanted to talk to me. And I, of course, was so very open to it. And so I got so excited and I ended up like going in the other room because I didn't actually have to teach and just being able to talk to her to see what was going on. But it was kind of like that spark of this woman letting me know, hey, your grandmother is around and she's really proud of you. And if you want to talk to her, all you have to do is meditate. And that kind of like started the wheels in my head, like getting them going. It's like, okay, if I want to do this, all I have to do is meditate. And my grandmother just told me that. And for that moment in my life, that was a huge point that started my interest in this intuitive work and psychic work and just really putting in a lot of effort with it. And my grandmother was really all about being who you are and not caring about what anyone else thinks, which at the time was the most terrifying thing for me. Really, my grandmother, that I didn't really remember because she passed when I was younger, came into my life as an adult to act as one of my spirit guides. And she was acting as a guide to like wake me up to this part of me and to let me know that I should only be doing something because I want to be doing it, not because everyone else wants me to do it. Because I was dancing for everyone else. Deep down, I didn't like it. And my grandmother was telling me that as she was guiding me, saying, hey, you're really unhappy. You need to do something that's just for you. Because when you do something just for you, it makes everyone around you grow.
That is an amazing chance encounter. What are the chances that somebody would come up to you randomly at your place of work and tell you that deceased grandmother is standing beside you. That wow.
And then to have it be I think if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have started doing all of this. I would have just clung on to the idea of forever being a dance teacher, and I wouldn't have started meditating and trusting my intuition or any of that.
And I personally am very happy that you did that because we wouldn't be here today talking.
Yeah, I me too. Long story short, I think that's a great example for how guides show up and come into your life. And when I first started doing readings with other people or had people give me readings, my grandmother always showed up and was kind of like cheering me on. She was like my ultimate spirit guide cheerleader. And now she's not there. I like in readings, people don't really connect with her because she did her job. Like her job as my guide was to get me to start this. And I did start it. So now she like gracefully bowed out and is allowing another guide to come in and help with whatever transition or experience I'm going through.
Yes, I think some guides we have throughout our whole lifetime, and other guides are just meant to support us at certain parts of our journey. If our lives are a book, they're supporting us in certain chapters. And once that chapter is finished, and we go on to the next chapter, another guide comes in, another story gets activated within us. My experience was a little bit different than yours because during my teenage years, I was very religious into the Christian church. And I always associated Jesus with religion. Now it's my views on that are a little bit different. It's evolved and it's a little bit more expansive and open. But back then, I used to have dreams when I was younger, up until roughly, I would say 18 years old. And in these dreams, I would face negative energies or entities, demons, whatever label you want to put on them. They were pretty scary beings and they used to scare me. And always in the dream, I would say, "In the name of Jesus, I command you to leave." And they would disappear and or they would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And they wouldn't seem as scary anymore. So there was power in that because I believed it held power. So I think Jesus was actually one of my first guides, but I didn't really realize it. And then fast forward to now, I actually haven't used those words in a very long time. Now, because well, I will get into this further, possibly when we do an episode on dreams, but I still do. I don't want to say face because it sounds like I'm battling demons and
Mhm.
energies in the dream state, but that does happen to me every now and then, especially last year. I guess with the collective fear and the anxiety, I was battling a lot of different energies. And now in the dreams, I've noticed that I only need to say, "I command you to leave," and it works. So I realized the divinity within myself and the power I hold as a creation of source, God, universe, whatever term what you want to throw in there, whatever term resonates with you, which is actually what Jesus taught all along, was realizing that you are divinity, you are God, you are created in the image of God, universe, source. You are a fragment of this divine, powerful, creative energy. So I thought that was pretty, pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure he was a guide for me a long time ago, but I associated him with just religion, that when I wasn't religious anymore, I kind of didn't want anything to do to do with it. But now I understand that he was also a multidimensional being in a human body here to teach us the divinity within ourselves. And I finally think I've understood that lesson.
That's amazing. I do remember last year too, you telling me all about your dreams and that there was always demons in them. And I had a similar situation where when I first started to connect, I would see like demons. And I I was raised Catholic too, so I grew up with these religions teaching their beliefs, putting their beliefs onto me. And it's just a really good
Yes.
example. It's a really good example that your beliefs affect what you see. because my personal belief about demons is that it's symbolic to your inner work. Your When you physically are seeing or experiencing a demon, it's because you have an energy within you that is coming up to be released, but it's manifesting in a way that you know. So if you know demons are a certain way, a certain energy that you're holding on to will manifest itself in that way.
Yes, it's just the face we give that energy.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
just give it a face. We give it a body. And generally it's scary because that's also how we've been conditioned through movies, through the media.
And because shadow work is so hard. Okay. Shadow.
You're telling me.
That's also scary. It's not really scary, but it is a lot of work.
I agree. And yes, it just goes back to how my guides for me were showing up in my dreams before I even knew who or what they were.
Hmm.
And I only put two and two together last year when this world completely kind of burst open. you know?
I think for me, with my childhood, the guides that I connected with the most were the animal guides that I had. And now as an adult, I have those same animal guides. So it's really cool to see that they've kind of followed me throughout my life everywhere I go.
Yes, I can relate to that too. I think I've always loved animals. I remember writing down in school what I wanted to be when I grew up, besides wanting to be a lifeguard. I don't know why that was a career choice when when I was 10 years old.
That's
I
amazing.
really love the water. It makes sense now that I look back and I
Yeah.
think, well, my whole astrology chart is pretty much water. Makes a lot of sense why I was drawn. I just wanted to help people and stay and be in the water. But the other one was a veterinarian. And yes, I totally relate to that. I love animals. And I actually had going back to dreams, because like I said, that's a way that guides show up for me a lot is in my dreams because I'm mostly visual. So I receive a lot of my messages and my communication with my guides very visually. And dreams seem to be at the top of that list most of the time. So I remember I had a dream. I think I told you about this too, about the wolf. And I'll just
Hmm.
talk about this
Yeah.
really, really
I love
quickly.
this dream.
I was in a forest and there was snow everywhere, and these trees were tall and they were green, and they were this deep, deep green. It looked like evergreens. And I was with two gentlemen that I believe were police officers, and we were looking for something. We were searching someone's home, but the home was outside. All the furniture was outside in the snow. And there was a sliding door. And I remember to this outdoor house. It was very strange, but that's dreams for you. And all of a sudden, I looked over to my left, and there was a wolf, and it was staring at me, and it was beautiful, and she was white with a little bit of gray, and she started walking towards me, and I remember being afraid and stepping back and stepping through the patio door, the patio to what I don't know. Everything was outside, and I closed it. But of course, in dreams, it never doors never fully closed for me. I can never keep something out. So I closed it and she came through anyways, didn't matter. And there was a chair behind me. I ended up sitting on the chair and she came up to me. And I kept looking over at the two gentlemen thinking, why aren't you coming to help me? There's a wolf in front of me. You're still searching for whatever you're looking for. And she came up to me and she put her head on my lap. And then I started stroking her and I started petting her. And then I remember her going on to her back, and then I was rubbing her belly. And it was just such a beautiful moment, and it felt so real because I believe it was. And I guess after she was done with me, she got up and she started walking away, except she started to fly, and these beautiful white wings came out of her back, and she flew over the evergreen forest. And then all I remember before I woke up was crying. I felt such a deep, deep sadness for this wolf leaving me. And then, of course, things started to line up afterwards. So then the day after, I pulled the oracle card. And of course, the animal spirit on the card was the wolf. Then, as I was connecting a week later, I had the name Serafina drop in, and I had this image of a wolf in my mind's eye as I was connecting with my eyes closed. And I didn't really think much of it. I thought Seraphina, okay, that's cool. Like maybe this is the wolf's name. Then a month later, I was reading a book, and of course, it mentions that Seraphina is the name of an angel who connects with humans. So this wolf's name was Seraphina. I got that connecting. And then a month later, I go and read a book. And apparently, that's the name of an angel who connects with humans, which makes sense because this wolf was very sweet and she was beautiful. And she flew away with these beautiful angelic wings.
I so understand that feeling where you're sad when you are leaving your guides. Um, I connected, this was actually a fairy guide, my new favorite. But the remembrance between us was so intense where I was like crying in my meditation and my guide was comforting me, like saying, "We're always here, like we never leave you. Like it's very easy for you to just come back and connect with us." Because there is just that huge soul remembrance. It almost feels like heartbreak when
Yes.
even when I was connecting with this guide, it felt like I felt guilty almost for leaving them. It was very, very interesting.
I think it's because their vibration is so high. So once you come off of that, it's almost as if you're on a higher self. And then you can feel almost depressed after when that feeling leaves you because you've experienced such a high level of vibration and energy that to go back to, for lack of a better word, mundane, the mundane world.
The density that is Earth.
Yes, it can seem sad.
Yeah, that happens. It's funny that you bring that up because I've been pretty sad the last couple of weeks. And just before we started recording, I thought, I feel amazing today. Like I woke up super happy. I feel awesome. What did I do differently? Because I want to be able to cultivate that feeling. And what I did differently was I made sure that I ate food that are good for me. And the other thing is that I started meditating more and doing the work. Like I have a few readings scheduled this week, and I started just connecting with other people who have a similar vibration to me as opposed to one that is a little bit more dense and kind of brings me down.
That is understandable.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this episode as much as we are. Did you know that you can ask us a question and have it answered on the podcast? You can find the link in our show notes or on our Instagram page at when.inbloom. Talk to you soon.
How would you say for you that you see your guides? For those that are wondering, how do you know when you are connecting with your guides? Do you see them? Do you hear them? Do you just know? Do you feel?
For me, I have a quite the big process in connecting with my guides. So now it's not now I've really surrendered into the trust right now. So when I have a thought that pops into my head, I know that it's my guides as opposed to just my thought. So there's a huge trust there. And well, for me too, I'm so knowing. So I also will just kind of know that it's my guides. But the biggest thing for me is trusting that it's them. I also ask my guides a lot for a lot of help becoming visual because when I was a child, I was visual and it was really scary because I was experiencing lower vibrational experiences. So they were manifesting as scary visions. And so as a child, I stopped being visual and I really asked my guides and was leaning in on to them for help, kind of opening up my third eye so I could see things a bit better. And my guides now, I have a group of guides, which I call my earth guides, and they're guides that have incarnated on earth before in any form. So even the elementals I consider my earth guides because they have a connection to earth. And when I sit with them, I visualize I'm sitting at the top of a mountain there's a big, huge fire, and I just call them in, and we all sit around the fire and I talk to them. And they're the ones that I go to for advice on how to move through earthly situations. And they can give kind of more human solutions to your problems. And whereas my next level of guides, so visually for me, it looked like like a like an upside down pyramid. And the bottom is my earth guides. And then above that is my team of light beings. And they told me that I can just refer to them as the council. And with them, we kind of sit down at a table and then we'll talk at a it looks like very sterile and very businessy. But so we just sit down at a table and I actually don't see them. I just telepathically connect with them. So I don't visually see my light being or galactic guides, and they help me with the higher perspective of things, which is helpful to see things from a higher perspective. But when I was asking for help with trusting and surrendering, the guidance that they gave me was, if you want to trust and surrender, simply trust and surrender. Like they just gave me different examples of what it is like. Like I don't even it was just they're very to the point and matter of fact. Like they don't really understand the density that we move through here. So they're just kind of like, if you want something, just do it. Like if you want to create something, just create it. Um, so I'll connect with those guides for people when they need to shift their perspective on things, which is definitely helpful. So I kind of will get that guidance, that perspective shift from the light beings, and then I'll connect and ask the earth guides, how do we actually do it? And then above my light being guides at the top of the pyramid is the collective consciousness. So that's just kind of the knowledge from like the source knowledge and the experiences of everyone else that goes back to source. That's where that connection's from. And it's also so funny because I keep seeing a fairy. Like, no joke. There's a little fairy just chilling. But it's so yeah. Anyway. So that's my nice visual representation of my guides. What about you? How do you experience and connect with your guides?
So it's no surprise that the way that I receive is mostly visual. And by that, I mean both my physical eyes and my metaphysical third eye. So physically, it means through dreams, especially, as I've mentioned countless times already, through pictures and videos, including orbs and light beings I've actually been able to capture on film, which I think, Brianna, I should probably add in a highlight on our Instagram story if anyone's interested in seeing them, as
Yeah.
well as seeing as well as seeing physical symbols in the sky, and also the beginning stages of seeing the auric field around the body. So I for me it's very physical, and when I do close my eyes with my third eye, sometimes it's physical as well, where if you've ever used Photoshop, it's almost similar to the color burn setting where it's almost a burn of light making out an image. And that's what happened too as well with the wolf guide that I mentioned earlier. I saw when the name Serafina dropped in, I actually saw the outline of a wolf. And it surprised me because normally when I see or communicate with my guides with my third eye, it's more using the imagination. And it's that same process of you when you daydream. It kind of feels like that. However, this time I physically saw it in my mind. So it was as if it was a color burn in the blackness of my mind or my mind's eye. But I also physically feel energy. So an example of sometimes I'll see also, I noticed in June of 2020, I began seeing sparkles of light out of the corner of my eye. And it was pretty amazing because it wasn't as if I was turning my head quick and you see a flash of something. I would be staring very statically in one direction. And now I began to see them flashing also in front of me, just sparks of light. Who knows, Brianna? Maybe they're also fairies as well.
I've been seeing sparks of light flash in the clouds a lot lately.
Mm. Yes, that normally accompanies my symbols that I see in the sky. Physical symbols, which I've also learned is from higher aspect of myself in the star system Arcturus that's sending me symbols as I activate different parts of myself. I am able to access my multidimensionality. So, going back to that, sparkles out of the corner of your eye, orbs in pictures or videos, high pitch ringing, or even fluttering. I've heard fluttering. It almost sounds like there's a butterfly wings like fluttering in my ear. Even hearing mumbling, especially when you're waking up and going to sleep, these are all signs that you're receiving the vibration from your guides and light beings, but it's almost as if you're being slightly off on a radio. So where you hear it's where you're hearing static, but you can't really make out what's being said. But it's letting you know that you are so close to translating that divine energy, which is so exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you just reminded me when this was like 10 years ago when I first started trying to get into mediumship totally by myself, just reading a book. And I was scared because people started calling my name and people started saying hi to me. And it was definitely just like my guides trying to get my attention, but I didn't know how to fully connect with them because I was too scared of this different world that people made me believe was separate from myself.
Yes. I that happened to me. I remember telling you I went to the dentist one day last year, and when I came home, I was just standing in the kitchen and I heard so loudly as if it was on or part of a rush of wind, Steph. And I remember turning around and thinking, what is happening to me?
Didn't you turn around like expecting someone to be standing there?
I did. And I guess also because of past conditioning, I automatically assumed it was a negative energy. And I remember commanding it to leave the space. And thinking back to it now, I wish that I had been a little bit more open minded and trusted that if it was for my highest good, I would be able to communicate with whatever or whoever was trying to communicate with me. Now it's so interesting and it's funny because I wish that it would happen again. And of course, when I actually want it to happen, it's not happening.
Yeah, I love how that happened.
Right? You get so scared, it starts happening at the beginning and you become so fearful that when you've finally opened up to this new world and you're craving more experiences and wanting your level of awareness to increase and your gifts to really open up even more fully, it doesn't happen. It seems to have happened when I was fearful.
Yeah, it's that makes sense because it's almost like they have to it's like you have to be convinced that it's real. So things have to manifest physically in order for you to truly believe it. Whereas now you just things just happen and you like no, you understand. You know that you're connecting.
Yes. That I love the way you put that. That makes a lot of sense. And that is definitely what has happened for me. When I first started connecting too, I knew I was connecting because I could feel it physically. So every time I connect, even to this day, my forehead tingles the entire time. Always the left side of my eyebrow, right above my eyebrow. And I noticed that the more activated I became and the more I opened up to higher levels of consciousness, it started to move to my third eye. So that's for me personally. I see things, but I also am physically aware of what's happening. I can physically feel energy. I don't know what it's like for you when you connect.
I'm so glad that you brought this up. When I connect now, it doesn't really feel any different. I can kind of feel my energetic body outside of my physical body a little bit more. And I today when I was connecting, I just I stated I am one with the divinity that is. And that was my trusting that I was connected. But you can also ask for help in feeling these physical sensations when you're first starting out or if you want to feel them. When I was first starting out, I asked to have a physical sensation to let me know that I was connected. and I could physically or energetically feel someone place their hand on my left shoulder. And that was one of my guides, just letting me know that they were there to assist me. The other thing that my guides did to let me know that I was connecting is that my eyelids would flutter. So anytime my eyelids were fluttering, I knew that I was fully connected to source. And that's kind of how I felt comfortable letting everything flow. But for me at the time, it was like I needed that reassurance where now I'm really leaning into the fact that everything just is, no matter what. So I don't have to do all of this extra work that I used to do to connect. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but you can ask for anything that you want. Like if you want to be a little bit more visual, you can ask your guide to help you cultivate that and grow being visual.
And I also believe that not all of us are going to be able to connect the same way because we are all unique and we all hold our own unique frequency. So for us, sometimes it can be a little detrimental when you're first starting to look at the way someone else is connecting and believe that that is what connection looks like. Especially for me, I found that if my connection process didn't look the same way as someone else, I was almost doing a disservice and dishonoring my own gifts and abilities.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I know it's funny because now I feel the same way, but I think of me 2 years ago and I needed someone telling me what to do and kind of guiding me through it. And the only thing that changed and shifted in me was kind of getting bored with doing it how everyone else did. Because I would connect and I would get the same things. And I was just kind of like, okay, what else? What else am I going to do?
Yes. Yes, same for me. I needed that guidance, especially last year when all these gifts really started opening up. And fast forward to now, I'm pretty much at where you're at, where I got bored and I noticed that every connection process was similar but different that everyone was teaching because we're all different. And what they were teaching was their specific way of how they connect using their gifts and abilities. So when it stopped, I don't want to say stopped working, but when it wasn't as strong, that connection didn't feel as strong for me anymore. It just didn't resonate. I should say that it just didn't resonate anymore with me. That's when I think, like you, I had really had to go within and learn, okay, well, what feels good? And I had to try out different things at different times and see what worked and what didn't.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's such an important thing to add.
Like for me right now, my current connection process is holding a piece of moldavite in my left hand. And moldavite is a crystal. And for those that don't know or have never heard of this crystal, it's very rare and it was formed from a giant meteorite that struck the earth. And the heat from the impact metamorphosed surrounding rocks. So it was flinging the resulting crystals over a vast area, creating a crystal that is really a fusion of extraterrestrial energies with our terrestrial Mother Earth. And because of this, it will actually become extinct once it has all been mined, as it's only found in the one area the meteor hit. So if you do want a piece of moldavite, I would suggest getting your hands on it pretty much as soon as you can, because one day it will run out. And for me, I was drawn to it because it's useful for sensitive people who find it difficult being an incarnation on the earth and who cannot adjust to suffering and deep emotions, which, if you know me, sounds like me. And for me, physically, so when you physically hold the stone, it downloads information from the Akashic record and the light body, which then has to be processed and made conscious. And I can personally say when I physically hold moldavite, I usually feel a rush of energy in that left hand or a pulsing or a vibration. And sometimes it's stronger than other days, depending on my own energy that day. And for me, using a crystal isn't necessary. Okay. I don't want to say that you need a crystal in order to connect, but I do believe it's as if your body is a satellite receiving communications from the universe or your spirit guides or your higher self, etc. And the crystal for me acts like an extra antenna. So it just kind of amplifies the connection that's already there.
That perfect. I usually have a selenite wand and anytime I do readings in front of my computer and I actually have that to keep the connection clear. And I always do readings with a little piece of labradorite and I used to use my moldavite anytime I connected. But yeah, the energy of it is a bit intense.
It really is.
And
So proceed with caution.
yeah, and you might not want to wear it. There is a local metaphysical shop though that has gorgeous moldavite rings, and I think I'm gonna have to go get one this weekend. Because I think I need a new piece. I think the first piece of moldavite that I got really served its purpose.
Yes, I should say also that most multibite pieces, because they're so rare, they can be a little pricey. And most people sell really small slivers or little pieces of it. So the one that I have is probably only less than an inch width and an inch height. So it's actually pretty small, but it's so powerful that I can physically feel it in my hand.
Yeah, that's a good note. The size of the crystal does not matter,
No.
especially with moldavite. I had a huge chunk of moldavite that was like the size of a finger that I was choosing between, and then one that is smaller than a pinky nail. And I chose the smaller one because it felt more powerful because that connection to the crystal was one with me. And it's
Yes,
like that's how the crystal is choosing me.
I love all of that.
This is even better. Like it's come so full circle that you mentioned Moldavite as we are doing talking about spirit guides because I used to open the Akashic records before I went to bed and then I would fall asleep with the records open and that's how I started meeting my spirit guides. And one of my guides came to me while I was dreaming and told me that I needed to get Moldavite. And I listened to them and I got a piece of Moldavite and my entire world changed.
I
So
remember you telling me that last year, right after I said, "Oh, by the way, I think I need to get a piece of moldavite. I don't know why, but I'm feeling really called to this one crystal." And then you told me that because our experiences obviously lined up pretty perfectly, very synchronistically, like they normally do. And I also want to mention too, for those that don't know what the Akashic records are, because we've mentioned it twice or a few times now, the Akashic records are, some people have described them as being a metaphysical library that basically the books of your life or the book of your life, the book of the soul that has recorded every single thought, feeling, action, vibration that you've ever experienced in the existence of your soul. So, not just on earth, but throughout all the other dimensions and galaxies. I personally, be, being the artist that I am, the way I visualize the Akashic records is as if you have your own gallery, your own building, and each of your lives is represented in a painting. So all the colors are the vibrations of that life that your soul lived. Every thought, every feeling is a color. And I picture the Akashic Records being a gallery that houses all the paintings of your the different versions of your soul.
that's so cool. When I first started entering the records, it looked like the library from Harry Potter. The what not like the library at Hogwarts, the library in the Ministry of Magic.
I know what you're talking about.
I think it's called the Hall of Records, but that's what I visualized it as looking at. And now it's kind of this greenhouse looking building that I go hang out in from time to time. But it's so funny. It really can be absolutely whatever you want.
I just
I
remember
I agree with
too,
that.
another I found that another way that I receive confirmation, just to kind of give myself the affirmation that I actually did connect, and the thoughts that I'm hearing or knowing or writing down are not just from my mind, not just from myself and me, making things up. I find that I receive it through other people. So, and I don't mean necessarily having a reading with someone else. This has happened so many times. And I know you remember, Brianna, and it still continues to happen where I will get a certain message and I'll share it with you. And literally a week later, a few days later, someone else will say the exact same thing on a podcast.
Oh yeah.
and it kind of, it's cool because it's affirmation that we are all connected. We're all connecting to source consciousness. So we're receiving the same messages.
Hmm.
So I find that that's another way that I receive confirmation. Although then it comes back to who actually said it first and the idea of ownership, because we're conditioned to believe that we own everything. We own our house, we own our car, we own our business. So we think that everything is ours, but connecting to this universal consciousness, none of us own any of this because we're all one with this.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so good. That happens with me too a lot. There's actually a couple podcasts which I stopped listening to because I felt like I was listening to myself.
Me too.
I was like, this is beautiful guidance that I received a couple days ago.
Hey there, beautiful soul. Do you want more than just audio in this podcast? Then be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have the audio of each episode streaming with beautiful videos to play in the background as you listen. Let's make this a full sensory experience. See you there. I can't believe I forgot to share this with you before, Brianna. I received this message from my guides, I believe it was last month, and I wrote it down in my notebook right after. It was during a moment when I realized that I have a lot to share, but sometimes my opinions overshadow my perspective. And they taught me that there really is a difference between the two, between an opinion and a perspective. I'm going to share it with you here, not only because it was full of wisdom that can pretty much be applied to everyday life, but I'm realizing now as we are talking that it can also be used as a tool or a guideline to help you all determine whether you are receiving guidance from your soul, your guides, or your ego or mind. Okay, how do we tell the two apart? An opinion versus a perspective. Here are the differences between the two that I have noted down. Your ego will give you an opinion. Your soul, your guides, your higher self will offer you a perspective. Opinions are biased. Perspective is neutral. An opinion is an aspect of knowledge. Perspective is an all encompassing wisdom. Opinions are rooted in the vibration of judgment. Perspective is rooted in the frequency of love. Opinions cause separation with pronouns such as me and I. Perspective is inclusive with pronouns such as we and us. Opinions are closed minded. Perspective is expansive awareness. Opinions believe someone or something is wrong or right. Perspective embraces all beliefs as neither being right nor wrong. With opinions, it's very one dimensional. It's as if you were metaphorically seeing only the tree or the triangle that's right in front of you. With perspectives, you are seeing the forest or the pyramid instead. It is a multidimensional view. I know this might be a lot to remember, so I will link an Instagram post in the show notes that you can screenshot on your phone for easy reference. This tool should help you differentiate between receiving messages from your soul versus from your ego. For me personally, especially with all of the events that have occurred since the beginning of 2020, this is a tool I have been consistently coming back to, even when having conversations with other human people. to help myself remain in the frequency of love by offering a perspective on a situation instead of an opinion. Because there's already enough opinions going around.
And it's a really good reminder with your perception that everyone sees things through a different lens. And within seeing something through a different lens, in reality, that makes everyone have a different truth. And it's kind of like truth and perception are very similar. So when you can accept that someone is seeing something through a perspective, you can understand that that is their truth. It is what is true to them, and you don't have to take it on as being true to yourself. And your guides really show you things from a higher perspective as well, because a lot of the times the ones who have experienced an incarnation on earth, they can see above the density. Your guides who have been on Earth are really good at maneuvering and seeing through the density and kind of picking you up over it to show you a bigger perspective. Because a lot of times, how we're doing things on Earth is we're thinking in the me complex. We're only seeing our tunnel visioned down from the ground view. Let's say there's a rainbow in the sky, and from where I'm standing, I can see the rainbow. However, someone standing across the street in a different from a different angle or a different perspective can't see the rainbow. So my truth is that the rainbow is there, and their truth is that the rainbow isn't there. It's really as simple as that, even though we try and muddle it up and make it a little bit more confusing.
I couldn't agree more. And with that, we're going to end the episode here. So you can take this tool, this guideline with you as we now enter into a beautiful meditation that Brianna has created for you to connect and receive messages from your spirit guides. As you go forward, though, we want you to keep in mind that you are unique and the way that you receive and translate energy will be completely unique to you. Surrender to the process and just trust yourself. Your guides are appearing in ways that resonate specifically with you, whether it is a fairy, an angel, or an alien. Have a wonderful week ahead.
This is a meditation for you to connect with your spirit guides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect with my guides and I'm going to call in the guides of everyone who is listening to this and everyone that will ever listen to this. It doesn't matter if you're listening to this the week that it comes out or months or even years after this meditation is done. Your guides will be here and you'll be receiving what you need to know from them. All right, so here we go. And they're giving a gentle reminder that you don't have to hold the weight of the world on your shoulders. On every exhale, you can feel that weight simply melting off of your shoulders. And it truly is like snow melting off of the flower as it begins to bloom. And I invite you to come to a comfortable position. You may sit, you may stand, you may lie down, however you feel comfortable in this moment. If you are driving or doing something where you can't close your eyes, you can simply invoke the messages to come through and set that intention. Bring your attention to the center of the chest, into the space right behind the heart. And this is a gentle reminder that this is where creation begins. That this is where you find ease, right here, right behind the heart space. That this truly is where the soul exists, where you can come back, where you can find comfort and find remembrance of your truest and highest power. From here, we're going to call forth our ego, the part of us that loves to keep us safe. For when we are small, we are safe. And we're going to thank the ego for these reminders. Thank the ego for its protection. We are reminding the ego that we are safe in our physical bodies, that we are safe as our eternal selves. And we're going to wrap our ego, however it is that you are visualizing, hearing, seeing, or feeling it, in a nice warm bubble of light, and allow it to take a break, and allow it to step to the side. I like to place my ego in a hammock in a beautiful rose garden. Bringing our attention back into the heart space. Breathing into all four corners of the heart. North, south, east, west, and all of the spaces in between. And really feel this energy moving throughout your body. And feel this energy expanding through time and space, out past your physical body, and sending this energy right down into the center of the earth. We will take this energy and intertwine it with the crystal which lives within the earth's core, bringing all of this energy all the way back through the earth, through the dirt, back into our energetic and physical bodies to ground ourselves within and as one conscious collective. Feeling this grounding energy moving within and around our bodies, and they're offering a gentle reminder that we are energy and that we are safely tethered to the earth. Begin to imagine a warm waterfall of divine white light, of divine consciousness washing down over you, beginning at the crown of your head. From here, we are going to open up our crown chakra, which you can find right at the top of your head. And this is going to act as a funnel to collect this waterfall. And as we collect this waterfall, the consciousness simply enters within and clears out any energy that does not serve our best and highest good, as it lights up our chakras. And they're inviting you to sit in this feeling, to sit in this power, feeling that deep-rooted connection with the earth and to the divine cosmos. We're going to find ourselves in a beautiful place in nature and imagine that there is a bridge in front of you. We're going to begin walking across the bridge. And notice, how does the bridge feel underneath your feet? How does the air feel? Take note of the surroundings. Can you feel the warmth of the sun? Smell the grass or feel the wind on your face. As we walk along the bridge, we're going to come to a ladder, and we will climb this ladder up one step at a time. And as we get to the top of the ladder, we find ourselves at the top of a mountain. Here we will find a great big bundle of logs. As we walk towards the bundle, we put any fears and any doubts amongst the logs. Any physical, emotional, or mental limitations that we're holding on for ourselves, we're putting it here in this pile of logs. Ask yourself, what is holding me back from truly connecting with my guides? What is holding me back from truly acting on the messages that I am receiving? Is there anything else I need to let go of in this moment? You can place all of these within the fire pit. And you notice next to the fire pit a long matchstick. So you'll pick up the matchstick, strike it on a rock, and set your logs, limiting beliefs, and any other energies you need to fully let go of on fire. And we'll watch them transmute back into divine source consciousness. For the universe and the collective learns through our lessons. As you sit around the fire, I welcome you to invite your team of spirit guides, light beings, ancestors, and angels. You can simply imagine them filing in and sitting around the fire with you. What does their energy feel like? Do they have a gift for you? Is there anything you need to know in this moment? It feels like they're really excited that you're here, and they want to remind you that you can come and sit with them anytime you want and anytime you need. You do not need a reason to come and sit with them. They want you to think of them as family, the type of family that you just show up at their house unannounced and they already have dinner waiting for you. This is your team of guides. They are here to help guide you in this life. Lean on them. They are here to support you, and they are here to catch you. When you're done sitting with your guides, you can simply thank them. Lean into the gratitude that you feel for them lean into the gratitude for their support. I always bow to my guides when I leave them. From here, they're reminding us that it's okay to come back into our physical. That feeling of warmth and home and comfort is always there, right in that space behind your heart. So I invite you to climb back down the ladder and to walk back over the bridge, feeling your feet and energy grounding back into the earth and being cleansed from above as a divine rain cloud is simply raining over you and cleansing your energy. You can begin to wiggle your toes, your hands, your fingers, breathing back into your physical body and opening your eyes when you are ready.